I rise to discuss my amendment that would repeal the costly and counterproductive medical device tax in President Obama's health care law. In the mad scramble to find money to pay for his $2.6 trillion health spending law, the President and his Democratic allies created a number of new taxes that serve no purpose other than to fuel this new spending. Economically, these taxes are a disaster. They will undercut job creation, and they will increase costs for patients. The new 2.3% tax on medical device manufacturers, which kicks in at the beginning of next year, is particularly onerous. For that reason, last year I introduced legislation to repeal it. That bill, the Medical Device Access and Innovation Protection Act, S-17, has been co-sponsored by 25 of my colleagues. They understand that all of Obamacare needs to go. The President's health care law is now over 2 years old, and it is not aging well. Even before Obamacare became law, the American people made themselves absolutely clear that they wanted nothing to do with this Washington takeover of the nation's health care system. The President and his advisors refused to face reality, telling reluctant Democrats that all was well in spite of the Tea Party town halls. According to the President and congressional Democrat leadership, as soon as the legislation became law, Americans would come to embrace the wonderful benefits bestowed on them by the Department of Health and Human Services. It has not quite turned out that way. Poll after poll shows that substantial majorities of Americans continue to oppose the law and favor its full repeal. A majority of Democrats think that the law is unconstitutional. And in a matter of weeks, the Supreme Court might issue a coup de grace to President Obama's misguided adventure in big government. Whatever the Supreme Court does, I want to be clear about something. All of Obamacare needs to go. It needs to be pulled out root and branch. The entire thing needs to be repealed. That said, some part of the law, or parts of the law, stand out for their wrong-headedness. The individual mandate and Medicaid expansions are flat out unconstitutional. The IPAB, the Class Act, the Medicare cuts, and the employer mandate all deserve honorable mention for being bad public policy. And among the most counterproductive parts of the law are its over $500 billion in new taxes and penalties. The medical device tax sits at the top of the list of foolish new Obamacare taxes, and my colleagues who have supported S-17 and this amendment understand the critical importance of eliminating it. I want to thank in particular my colleagues Senator Brown from Massachusetts and Senator Toomey from Pennsylvania, who have spoken on this issue and understand completely the devastation that this tax will create for patients and for employers that provide good jobs for communities in their states. Thanks to Obamacare, medical devices will get hit with a $28 billion tax. And so we are clear about what these medical devices are. They include surgical tools, bedpans, wheelchairs, stethoscopes, and countless other products that patients and doctors rely on every day. Surgical masks, gloves, blood pressure monitors, scissors, needles, cribs, trays, lights, stents, pacemakers, scales, scalpels, inhalers, and ankle, knee, and hip braces, and a lot more. And the cost of all these products is going up thanks to this tax. Somebody's going to have to pay for it. And that somebody is the already overburdened American taxpayer and middle-class breadwinner. The President and his supporters seem to think that you can simply tax corporations and individuals with impunity and face no adverse economic consequences. Yet economists understand that when you tax these companies, employees will pay for it in lower wages. The unemployed will pay for it with a job that was never created, and patients will pay for it with higher health care costs. Whatever our economic circumstances, this tax is bad news, but it is particularly foolish given the precarious state of our economic recovery. The President once liked to tout all of the jobs created or saved by his over $800 billion stimulus bill. Yet by supporting the medical device tax, the President and his allies have shown a real disregard for good, high-paying American jobs. Medical device companies employ nearly 500,000 people. They pay a salary that is nearly 40% higher than the national average. These manufacturers are small businesses that we must be cultivating if our economy is going to recover, and we're going to be successful in bringing down unemployment. Roughly 80% of medical device companies have fewer than 50 employees. 98% have fewer than 500 employees. Obamacare's $28 billion tax hike on these manufacturers will do nothing to improve health care, but it will do plenty to undercut the viability of these companies that provide good wages and good opportunities for American families. According to one recent analysis, the medical device industry provided jobs to 409,000 employees in 2009, yet this tax could result in job losses in excess of 43,000. And it will hit certain states harder than others: California, Florida, Illinois, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. My state as well, the state of Utah. The presence of medical device manufacturers is significant in all of these states. This new tax will roughly double the device industry's total tax bill and raise its average effective corporate income tax rate to one of the highest effective tax rates faced by any industry in the world. The president and his allies frequently attack industries that choose to move their operations overseas, but they do not seem to grasp that their policies are driving these industries to do just that. With the onset of this new tax, U.S. device manufacturers are increasingly likely to choose plants in the United States and replace them with plants in foreign countries. According to another report by the Lewin Group, the medical technology industry contributes nearly $382 billion in economic output to the U.S. economy every year. And President Obama, in the middle of a weak economy facing high rates of joblessness, has decided to attack that industry. It's bewildering to me. An industry that pays workers on average $84,156, 1.85 times the national average, has become a victim of the president's desire to pay for his new health spending law. Or better put, those workers and the families they support become the victims of the president's health spending law. In my own home state of Utah, the device tax is an issue of great importance. There are over 120 medical device companies in my home state of Utah. As the Utah Technology Council wrote in a letter to me, these companies, quote, are a vibrant part of the Utah economy, providing high-paying, high-tech jobs for citizens of our great state, unquote. They certainly are all of that, and they are under assault as a result of this tax, targeted for nothing other than their success and the fact that they were a so-called stakeholder that could pay its so-called fair share to subsidize the president's health spending bonanza. Mr. President, I request that letter be included in the record at this point.
Without objection.
And just yesterday, the governor of Utah, the Honorable Gary Herbert, sent a letter to Congress addressing the negative impact this tax will have on our state. He wrote, quote, as the governor of a state with a significant concentration of medical technology manufacturers, I believe this tax could harm U.S. global competitiveness, stunt medical innovation, and result in the loss of tens of thousands of good-paying jobs, unquote. Now, there is little doubt that the president's medical device tax, one that unfortunately received the vote of every Democrat in the Senate, will do just that: kill jobs and undercut our economy. Mr. President, I ask that Governor Herbert's letter be included in the record at this point.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. President, the president's health care law is a travesty. The American people know it. They think that it is fundamentally illegitimate, unconstitutional to its core, and enacted over the deep and loud objections of citizens and taxpayers. All 2,700 pages of that law must be stricken from the U.S. Code one way or another. Eliminating its medical device tax is absolutely essential. It is critical for our states, for our economy, and for America's families and workers. I ask for my colleagues to join the repeal effort, and I thank my colleagues who have already joined as co-sponsors.